Friends, and now we get to step through the wardrobe and into Narnia. I'm so excited. Enjoy the reading this week and next. So much fun. So, if you read my bio, you might have noticed, or maybe I've mentioned here, that I am pastor of Cedar Creek Church in Sherwood. That is a new position for me, actually, as of September 1st. So, very new position. I've been preaching at my church for about 8 years, but just applied for and was hired as head pastor. So it's a part time position. My main job is faculty and administrator at George Fox. The head pastor position is actually it's supposed to be 10 hours a week. You can bet it's more than that. But I'm not the only preacher. We have a preaching team, so we share that. And mostly I function as head of staff and then preach. Sometimes this last month I preached a couple times in a row, and then I think I don't preach again for about a month. But my point is, last night we had 3 baptisms, and we did them at the Sherwood YMCA because they wanted to be immersed. I have assisted on baptisms before, but this was my first solo. Although I wasn't solo, I had 2 elders in our church who were in the water with me. But it was a profound experience. So I was anxious about it for the past week, and I was actually traveling. I had a conference I spoke at in St. Louis on I was gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I flew in early Sunday morning, just the prep for the conference and then thinking about the baptisms. And when it's actually you are the one who's leading it, you start thinking about the details of liturgy and what do people expect. And I know my denomination intimately. I know what our beliefs are about baptism. I've been to many, many baptisms, but you don't always notice every detail when you're not the one who's leading it. So just some anxiety about making sure that it's as right as it can be. And of course, the Holy Spirit's the one who takes over anyway. But what I want to share with you that was so interesting to me is that once I got into the water and there were 3 people being baptized, a girl who's about 8, another girl who's about 13, and a woman who is probably in her late 30s, maybe close to 40. So all female, but very different age range. And the 13-year-old went first. And before I baptized them, I kind of gathered the 3 in the corner of the pool so we could talk. And we had about 50 people gathered around, gathered in tightly, and we kind of had a service. So I spoke from the water, so I basically had to yell so they could hear me. And then when I gathered the 3, I just reminded them of really what the story is, what the gospel story is, what Jesus has promised us, and what baptism is all about in our denomination. And it was so interesting to watch their eyes as they heard the story and just see the different age levels, 8, 13, almost 40. And then when they were baptized is what I think caught me the most off guard and was the most humbling. So the 13-year-old went first, and she prayed over her in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and then had warned her how we would do this. And then it's almost like a trust fall, right? You press them gently backwards. And then I had these 2 other guys who were helping and brought her back up. And as she came up out of the water, she's 13, she just burst into tears and just hugged her dad. Was there, hugged her dad first, and they gave me a hug. And it wasn't just one of those casual, like, oh, thank you hugs. It was a monkey on top of you hug, just fiercely grabbing. And you know what I felt in that was, of course, the power of our belief in the Holy Spirit, but also just the incredible power of story and how much it spoke to her and really gave her life meaning. And then I'm trying to think who went next. I think the mom went next. So she's just about 40 and she went next. And you could tell how meaningful this was for her as well. So they were mother-daughter, the 8-year-old and the almost 40-year-old. And as she came up out of the water, the same impact of the story, just tears in her eyes and big, big, big tight hugs. And then the 8-year-old, where, you're wondering, how much is she really absorbing? What does this really mean to her? What does it mean to her as compared to the other 2? On what levels are they all receiving this? And the same thing happened again. We prayed over her. I baptized her. We brought her down in the water. I brought her back up, and just teary-eyed and big, huge emotional hug. And then everyone starts clapping, and it's just joyful and wonderful. And I had prepared something that I asked everybody who was gathered to recite together that essentially was an acknowledgement that, you don't baptize yourself. It's a public declaration of your faith. And in that, being public and bold enough to put it out there, you're asking that others join you in the story. And so they read just a little paragraph they each had on a piece of paper in front of them, basically said, we affirm you, we welcome you, we're going to love you and walk alongside you as you live out your life story. So my word to you is to not just take this course and say, yeah, story's important. And a lot of you have affirmed the importance of fiction and how much impact story can have, as opposed to, say, just straight facts and a lot of the things that we get on, any social media, Facebook, wherever, where people are just reporting something and you get it quickly, and whether or not it's true, they're trying to say that it's factual. And we're losing that ability to sit down and just get swallowed in a good novel or a good short story, whatever it might be, something that's fictional. There's something in our culture today that says that fiction somehow is a waste of time. Unless it's on TV, I suppose, or a movie. But I'm talking about books where your mind really has to do a lot of the work. I hope that you're concluding, this is a point of this course, that you're concluding, whether you're a person of faith or not, that C.S. Lewis was onto something when he steps beyond just writing apologetics like Mere Christianity or The Problem of Pain, some of these wonderful, profoundly impactful books, and he ventures into fiction to try to see what that will do. And I assume that you're aware of how widely read the Narnia Chronicles are and how much those movies have been watched. And that is the gospel story. Whether people are aware of it or not, that's exactly what it is. Think of Tolkien as well, The Lord of the Rings, all of those movies, hugely, hugely famous. So many people are watching them, and that's Satan and his demons versus Jesus, God, and the good side, the Holy Spirit. That's what these stories are. So that's the trajectory of this course. We're nearing the end, and I hope that you're seeing this, but here's my challenge to you. Don't let it stop there. How does this impact you? How does it impact the work that you do, the way that you relate to your family, the way that you relate to your friends, to strangers, to the people that you work with, maybe alongside or below, a boss who's difficult, let's say, or somebody that you're in charge of at work? Are there ways that you can make this knowledge useful? If stories are impactful, it doesn't mean if in your line of work it's not appropriate for you to suddenly have limericks coming out of your inbox or writing a narrative poem in order to get a point across. Perhaps not. But might story play a role? And might it make you a more impactful and effective worker? Only you can answer that. But please don't just take this course, bury yourself in C.S. Lewis for a little while, and then leave it and not have it transform something about the way that you approach your life. Be thinking about that. Comment on it in the discussion forum. Send me an email. I'd love to hear about it. Blessings on you.